BAE Systems won a $450 contract to develop an ocean color instrument for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's next geostationary weather constellation. The Space Trash Science project has created constellations made of defunct satellites and old rocket parts to draw attention to the worsening space debris problem. On Artemis III, we anticipate using at least 2 of the launch sites, one at KSC and one at Starbase. A farmer got a huge surprise recently when space debris crashed into his property. Galaxies rarely look stranger than NGC 4.53. If we can travel 150 astronomical units, we can reach a ridiculously cool point in space. Think of it like a river turning into a waterfall. Hitherto, we have been looking at the river. This is our first sight of the waterfall. Ultra-heat-resistant computer storage can operate at Venus-like temperatures and may be used in extreme conditions such as nuclear plants and even for future NASA missions. WSJ, neuroscientist, volunteers herself for study, resulting in first-of-its-kind discoveries. The first launch of the Ariane 6 is expected in the first half of July as the vehicle takes shape at its French Guiana launch site. Sometime between May and September, a white dwarf is expected to go thermonuclear. In 7 billion years, our sun will run out of fuel and die. So will every star, eventually. Here are the different fates they'll encounter. Webb wows us again. In a fascinating experiment, Chinese astronauts from the Shenzhou 16 mission recently struck a match aboard the Tiangong space station. Pilots have been doing barrel rolls in small planes throughout the history of aviation. Dubbed the Doomsday glacier by scientists, the Thwaites could raise global sea levels by up to 2 feet if it melts. What did our ancestors think when they looked up at the night sky? All cultures ascribed special meaning to the sun and the moon, but what about the pearly band of light and shadow we call the Milky Way? If we're going back to the moon, it's time to visualize what we have learned. The European Space Agency's Planetary Defense Office is investigating the appearance of an enormous fireball that lit up the sky above Spain and Portugal late last week. An international team of astronomers has observed a high-redshift massive star-forming galaxy known as Rebels 25. They found that Rebels 25 is a dynamically cold disk galaxy. Neuroscientists suggest consolidating consciousness theories into a general framework could help unravel one of the brain's greatest mysteries. Black holes are intriguing astronomical objects that have a gravitational pull so strong that it prevents any object and even light from escaping. A team of astronomers at Nanjing University has found evidence that Mars likely has more potentially hazardous asteroids in its path than Earth. Turns out, having a lot of money may not qualify you to repair delicate scientific equipment. A steep decline of Antarctic sea ice may mark a long-term transformation in the Southern Ocean, and seawater intrusions beneath the Thwaites Glacier could explain its melting outpacing projections. Scientists have discovered that a single atomic defect in a layered 2D material can hold on to quantum information for microseconds at room temperature, underscoring the potential of 2D materials in advancing quantum technologies. People might assume the search for life on Mars ended when NASA's first rovers sent back images of the planet's barren, inhospitable surface. Quantum tunneling can explain radioactive decay and also serve applications like microscopy and memory storage. Subsea compasses deep underwater recorded disturbances in Earth's magnetic field. The march to the first moon landing took a giant leap forward in May 1969 with the successful completion of Apollo 10, essentially a dress rehearsal for the... My 13-year-old daughter has been attached to her phone since she got it for Christmas. Her school had a no-phone policy for a dance, and I loved it. Scientists have found evidence that Einstein's general theory of relativity doesn't quite work in the distant universe. For water-stressed cities, undersea aquifers could be a submerged solution. SpaceX is targeting back-to-back Starlink launches this week from the Florida Space Coast. Deposits of designated critical minerals needed to transition the world's energy systems away from fossil fuels may, ironically enough, be co-located with coal deposits that have been mined to produce the fossil fuel most implicated in climate change. As part of NASA's efforts to expand commercial resupply in low Earth orbit, Sierra Space's uncrewed spaceplane arrived at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida ahead of its first flight to the International Space Station. The lead scientist for NASA's Perseverance Mars rover is excited about material that has been stored in the rover's sample tubes. Scientists have discovered that dinosaurs are even cooler than we previously thought. Or and it turns out, not cooler, but warmer. This bird isn't going to space for a while. A team led by Professor Jongmin Choi of the Department of Energy Science and Engineering has developed a PBS quantum dot that can rapidly enhance the electrical conductivity of solar cells. The findings are published in the journal Small. Which bike to take? Nick Adams' first world problems result in a strip and reassembly of his Moto Guzzi Eldorado. It's called the magneto-tail, of course. Researchers identified a key signaling pathways, PI3K beta, responsible for chemotherapy resistance in glioblastoma. Research has provided new insight into the tectonic plate shifts that create some of the Earth's largest earthquakes and tsunamis. More than half of the world's ocean surface waters have changed color over the past 2 decades. We'll be studying this event for years. An Earth-sized planet discovered around a nearby star offers astronomers their first chance for exoplanetary geology. In a world that seems to be switching focus from the Hubble Space Telescope to the James Webb Space Telescope, Hubble still reminds us it's there. The authors of a major study on the critically endangered Arabian leopard say that the release of captive-bred animals carefully selected for their genes can make a significant contribution to the successful recovery of the dwindling wild population and avert